Just waiting for a few people who are just coming in, for them just to come in, and then we'll begin proceedings. We'll be starting in the next 5 minutes. Thanks. Class, brought to you by Huawei Watch GT4. My name is Buhlembo Nambi, and I'm the, sorry, I need to. Just wanted it to be perfect. Okay, I'll go again. So my name is Buhlembo Nambi, and I'm the content manager at AFI Fashion International. Welcome to the AFI Masterclass, brought to you by Huawei Watch GT4. So before I move on and acknowledge everybody, I just want us to play the brand story, please, Luke, so we can begin proceedings. Thank you.
This is our currency since 2007. The business of African fashion, sustainable and people-centered. Forged in spellbinding artistry that captures our heritage. Invested in celebrating distinct voices of contemporary fashion, scouting talent that pushes boundaries. Countless shows, collaborations, partnerships with awards. Curating the very best of high-end quality wearable art. A purveyor of Pan-African luxury, concerned with elevating designers and artisans, bringing them from the margins to the runways of global fashion. This is an institution and a conduit for cross-cultural creative expression. This is African Mastery. This is African Fashion International, showing Africa's coveted closet.
Thank you so much, Luke. So once again, welcome everybody to the AFI Masterclass powered by Huawei Watch GT4. Just special greetings to our headline sponsor, Huawei Watch GT4. Thank you for making it possible. Thank you for also being very much fashion forward. To the fashion schools, the designers, and the entire fashion community in attendance, welcome. You know, with all the glamour that's happening at Joburg Fashion Week, we also need to talk about the things that affect us as an industry as a whole, which brings us to today's topic, unlocking the economic potential of circular fashion in Africa. It encapsulates a vision that stretches far beyond clothing and design. It's about unlocking a sustainable future for fashion on the African continent, and it all starts with you. So while our industry in Africa is celebrated for its creativity, diversity, and a rich cultural heritage, it is imperative to acknowledge and address the adverse impacts associated with its growth. The global fashion sector is notorious for contributing to waste, pollution, and unsustainable practices, and it poses a threat to both the environment and local African communities. In response to these challenges, there's a transformative movement that is happening, which is the adoption of circular fashion in Africa. It may be in its nascent era, but it's a paradigm shift that represents a pivotal opportunity for us to simultaneously address environmental and social concerns while leveraging the industry's growth and creative potential. Circular fashion places emphasis on waste reduction, material reuse, and the recycling of fashion products. This helps us to mitigate the industry's impact on the environment and local communities. Today, we are discussing solutions together. We are not pointing fingers, we are coming together to find solutions so we can all do better. So, our facilitator is the illustrious Mr. Felipe Mazibuko, who really needs no introduction, but I will do so. So, Felipe enjoys over 3 decades in the fashion industry. His work is centered around understanding and his expertise in how the transition into a new democracy and now in the digital media space affects and shapes our style. Philippe's experience and expertise over the decades undoubtedly made him one of the leading stylists that has helped shape post-1994 South African taste, identities, and aesthetics. But I think one thing he really cherishes the most about him and his contributions to the industry is that he spends a lot of his time mentoring, encouraging, and empowering young designers and the industry as a whole to gain a better understanding of the business of fashion, to build a more resilient, sustainable, and prosperous local industry. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our facilitator, Felipe Mazibuko.
Hello, everyone. For me, it is important that we gather and we start talking about what is affecting us, not only from a mental wealth point of view as creatives, but also from an economical point of view on how we take our craft forward. So for me, it has always been my passion, not only to understand myself as an African, but also to understand the creatives that make me who I am today. So for me, it is not about me imparting knowledge, it's about us sitting down together and coming up with solutions that are going to be the future of the next generation and give Africa even a much more bigger signature in selling all the commodities and fashion being and art being part of a bigger economical globe. So for me, it's always been how do we start and how do we end? And I prefer starting from the beginning. What I've realized is with a lot of young designers, the most important thing is about registering yourself. Registering yourself in terms of your business, registering yourself in terms of your identity, registering yourself in terms of what your IP stands for. The second part of that, do I have backing? Do I have a lawyer who can be able to understand my methodology and translate that and protect my integrity as an artist? And the third one, being an accountant. How do I sit down and understand how do I buy fabric and how do I buy all the trims and how do I buy all the buttons to actually sit down and grade and price accordingly and without compromising my signature? And the third one is, for me, sustainability has always been a huge part in the sense that we as Africans have always been sustaining ourselves. We've always been giving down things. So how do we take that and create an economy that sustains us to the future? And last year, we started engaging with Ali in terms of how do we unpack the whole movement. And with her, she'll tell you a bit about her story and how she got to where she is.
Hello, how are you? So I'm very pleased to be here and thank you for being here. Sorry, my English might be a bit awkward sometimes because I'm a French-speaking person and I have a tendency to literally translate from French. So my apologies if there are some words who are not right. So I'm a designer, fashion designer. I started 8 years ago. Before that, I was in the bank industry and I was trained in Singapore. So that's why I think it's quite interesting to see like the aspect of like what happens in Asia and what happens in Africa, because we have different narratives. And I will speak a lot about how I get to where I am here, because I think the reality usually is not as simple as what you see on papers. And you as a young fashion designer or other from other backgrounds, things are never as easy as it seems. And in Africa, we just have many challenges. So I hope we will have an open conversation about that. And that we will be able to exchange and see what's going on.
How did you start? What inspired you to make clothing another spark of emotional identity?
Well, it's a long story. I will make it short because it's a very late conversion. So at that time, I was following my husband in India first, where I got my first daughter, and I was getting bored. As I like to say, it's my desperate housewife era, and so I started doing things to try to keep busy, and I started like doing clothing for my baby, and I first bought some pattern. And I start doing it, I'm like, first success, oh wow, cool. And then I start little by little, and the more I will go into it, and I will want to alter the things, I will want to learn more. And it's like when you start eating and you can't stop and you want more and more. And that's what happens with fashion, to the point where I just sit down. I was already pregnant of my second daughter, and at that time we moved in Singapore, and I said to my husband, like, listen, this is a passion I can't ignore. I know I can't go back to bank, but I know I want to get educated about that. So as soon as I will be able to like deliver, take care of my baby, I want to go back to study. So at first he wasn't really happy about that, but I mean, I fought for that. And I managed to register full-time as a student. So I was already like 32. So usually when people will enter the room, they will come to see me thinking that I was a lecturer, but I was like, no, the lecturer is behind at the back, and I was the only black woman in the middle of like a small, tiny teenager, Asian teenager. They were like this, and they will call me the mommy. They will always come to see me, and I think this is very interesting to have an approach at when you are at a mature age and when you have also children. So my daughters actually grew up between fabric, pins, and whatever, and I think that's what also makes it special to me, because I had to fight to follow this path, because in Africa most of the time people think fashion is like very superficial. This is some things that people do when they don't have anything to do.
Which is exactly where I'm coming from, because in my experience is that a lot of designers who are very successful didn't initially go into design. Something pulled them through. Do you think that being a desperate housewife sort of like sparked off your creative energies into the clothing and textile industry?
Exactly. I mean, it's because I like to say the most important thing in life, even if you don't really know where you go, even if you don't know what you really want, the most important thing is like already knowing what you don't want or what you don't want anymore. So as I knew that I will not go back to my previous life, I will not go back to what I was doing before, then I'll try to figure out, and I follow like what was like what my soul was telling me, yes. And it's important, because when everybody will try to discourage you, and especially the first year when you start doing fashion, you don't earn money. So it's a fight, and people keep telling you like, oh, when are you going to stop playing with your clothes?
When are you going to quit the hobby and get a proper job?
Can you go back to get a proper job, like going back to bank? So every time, and when you are challenging, and especially at that time I was divorced also, I have my 2 kids, and so you are like Sorry,
Trying to
I was
sustain
about
yourself.
to say the F word. Sorry, sometimes I have a tendency to be very straightforward. Sorry, and you have really this is the, sometimes really you don't know what's going on. You sell everything, you're using all your savings, and you are thinking, how can I keep going? But then little by little, you learn from your mistake, and then things start to come into place.
fall into
But
place.
things are not easy. As I say, if you want to get rich, don't get into fashion. Don't get into fashion. Just the passion make you go through that.
Take us back a little bit about where you come from. Where is the fashion industry in your country?
Well, I'm from Niger, so fashion industry is non-existent. There is nothing going on there.
And where did you migrate to?
I'm in Senegal because there, like, people are much more open-minded, and also because Niger is very enclaved, so we don't have access to like a lot of things. So even the material, people don't have education also about like fashion world. And sorry to say that, but also as a Muslim country, there is a lot of like. They have
There's lots of laws that are protecting
Exactly,
how
like
you dress,
people-
how you deliver the art within
It
you.
wasn't like that before, but we can see an increase in terms of like the radicalization of the people. So people who usually, when like 20 years back, they were very open, women will wear skirts, will wear pants. Now they are all covered. They even cover babies, 3 years old girls, they will put them the cover. And this is not even written in, I won't go into that part, but this is not what Muslim, like the Quran is saying, but like there is this radicalization, so it's making the fashion step back.
So religion took over and...
Yes, but not the proper religion, I will say. I want to insist on that because nowadays a lot of people, like they tend to assimilate the religion by itself and what people do about it. But this is not the real Islam, but there is really a radicalization, and where women are losing the control over their body and over their express it. But for example, in Senegal, which the majority of people are Muslim, they have this openness. Women can express themselves. They like to dress. They like to be shiny. So the thing is, like, we really have a lot of room to express what we want to do.
But then in terms of how you transitioned into being a well-known designer in Senegal, how was that journey? Because everyone wants to understand the journey from A to Z to where you are at.
So as I say, it was a big struggle. So I really learned from my mistake, because the reality is there is no magical formula for a designer to be like to make the evolution. So I started with some fashion week, like there is a Dakar Fashion Week who is quite well known in the region. Some small ones. There was some disasters, like you go and then you are like, oh, wow, why was I there? And the most of the time, what you realize also is like it's not by doing those fashion week that you are selling. People, like, there is a big issue in Africa where people are like taking fashion for how do you say a spectacle, like
a
an event.
spectacle.
Yes, where people come to applaud. Fashion is a business. No matter what, it has to be pretty, but it has to be sellable also. So most of the mistake that also young fashion designers are doing is like they want to go on runways to show what they can do, the creativity. But this creativity don't sell. Me, for the first 3-4 years, I was doing a lot of fashion shows, but I didn't sell a single one outfit out of the runway.
Which is a story of every creative when you start, which is where I go back into how a lot of creatives are affected with mental illnesses because they're always in a silo where they're creating on their own, where they're asking themselves questions, and where they feel very frustrated. That's why a lot of the creatives end up in abusive, self-abuse, in drugs and alcohol and all that. How did you manage not to fall under that trap?
Well, first of all, I have to thank also my families, because also I knew the passion made me go through that, you know, the fact that, and you are right to talk about the mental issues, mental health, I will say, because even me in my desperate housewife era, I was depressed. I had a depression because I was in India, I was isolated, and I couldn't like express myself. So I was feeling I was feeling useless. So I went into depression. So I even have to go to therapy and everything. So for me, also, fashion allowed me to get out of it. So for me, fashion is also a way of expressing myself and say to the world what is inside. So it was a therapy. But when this therapy also, like, you talk and the thing is like people don't really listen. You're like, actually what I'm saying is not relevant. Or sometimes like some people make comments, they don't realize the impact because this is your baby. When you are creating, it's your baby you put outside.
Okay, cool. Before we fast track to everything else, we just going to show you a clip.
Sorry, I just want to introduce two of our other panel members, Shamyra and Khensani Mohlatlole. They're joining us virtually on screen.
Can you see them on the screen here?
Yeah, on the screen. So Shamyra is a AFI fast track winner, designer of the year winner for 2021. She's a sustainable designer, and she's wearing one of her brands. She really speaks to the topic that we're on about today, which is about circular fashion. So she's actually living and breathing it. Next to her is Khensani Mohlatlole, who's also an award-winning journalist. She is changing the way that fashion is reported on in our continent, and she's won an award for being a sustainable reporter. Thank you so much. So they'll be joining in the conversation shortly. Thank you so much.
Are they ready?
They're ready.
Okay, I'm going to start with Khensani. For me, it is always about what the media delivers. What have you discovered in terms of where African fashion is at?
I think it's actually in a really exciting time right now. I think we're experiencing a bit of a renaissance in terms of, it's a really, I mean, everyone's got eyes on Africa right now. We're getting so much better at locally manufactured sourcing, training our designers. So it's probably one of the best times we've really ever had.
We're listening. It's all jam. Okay, let me go to Shamyra. Shamyra, your brand is completely what I love, what I call Afro-Asian. What inspired you to stick to your guns and sustain your methodology in delivering amazing garments? We're having audio problems with Shamyra.
We can't hear you, Shamyra.
We're having audio
your
problems
mic
with
is
Shamyra.
Hi, there you go. Hi, guys. So I'm also similar to Alia. I'm 43, and my journey into fashion only started just before I turned 40. So for me, this is something kind of that happened late in life, and something I've kind of pushed back on. I've tried to escape fashion in so many ways. I'm an accountant, now turned creative, and that kind of process happened by accident after the birth of my second child. And I used to live in Ireland, so I am South African. I have Indian heritage in my DNA, and I lived and worked for 6 years in Ireland. So I had come back to South Africa after 6 years. I was in Cape Town, and I fell pregnant shortly after I arrived, and I thought, well, maybe it's not time for me to go back into accounting. Shall I take a little bit of a break? And my son, my baby, had plans for me, and I always say he's my pause button. So yes, I was stuck in a house, and I thought, what shall I do? How shall I unleash creativity? And I actually, the house, we call it the house of Lani Rani because it's kind of where it all started. This is my nesting home. You can't really see it here, but it was really driven by this hormones that you start to get while you're pregnant. And I had a friend who came in, and he said, he's gay, but he said to me, this looks like a gay person on steroids decorated this house. But, for me, it was creativity. I was trying to find my identity in the suburbs of Cape Town. Who am I? I am not of this place, yet I am South African. How do I create the story that's really authentic to who I am? And so for me, it was just being free, and that's kind of how I design as well. So everything in my house, before I even knew the term sustainability, is made from recycled, upcycled material. And this starts from when I was a kid and we just didn't have the resources. I always tell the story of my mom who called me. I used to call her DIY mom because I'd say, Mom, can I bake? And she'd say, DIY, do it yourself. I'd say, Mom, can I paint my room or can I wallpaper my room? And she'd say, yes, do it yourself. We never had the ingredients, so I always had to be creative. And so that's kind of how it started. It was completely accidental at an AFI show that it started. Recently, I spoke in India at a design conference, and I decided, what shall I speak on? And I termed my presentation, Do You See Me? and almost 2 years after I've started this fashion journey, it hit me that that is what I've always been searching for. Do you see me? Do you see me through my work? Do you see me? What do you see when you see me? When you see my clothing, do you see who I am? And for me, growing up in apartheid, I was born in 1980, it's always been a struggle of my identity. How do I fit into this place? How do I belong? I look a certain way, and there's always an assumption, and you question this fusion of Afro-Indian, but I never designed from that perspective. When Africans see my design, they see the Asian aesthetic in it. And, going to India now, when they looked at my design, they seem to have seen something completely different. Something that they enjoyed, and on a different level, maybe they connected with, but it wasn't overtly apparent to them that there was an Indian aesthetic in there. They saw African. And so a lot of what I've been doing over the last year is traveling abroad and globally. And it's kind of cool how people have connected and never really felt the need to define what it is that I create or that story. Rather, it was like a collective sense of energy and joy that they connected with, rather than it had to fit a particular box. So, it's interesting to see how people view what I do.
Do you find that you being an economist before has helped you streamline your business much better and understand where the market is at?
So I used to be a business strategist. I am a management accountant report certified one, which seems like a long time ago. But, a lot of what I learned at the time was probably what not to do. I looked at like global billion-dollar brands, and I seen how they fail when they just give up too quickly on certain innovations, where they don't go back and question themselves, where learnings is lost, where they move so quickly on to the next thing. And so with me, yes, I keep questioning myself and auditing myself. How can I do better? What have I learned? How do I take it back? Right to the drawing board. So yes, I think nothing is wasted. I don't think of that as a separate part of who I am. I see it as who I am today, the learnings, that knowledge, the kind of people I interacted with. Always had this mindset of consumer. So I worked in FMCG because for me, it was very important that, yes, I'm an accountant, but I care about a tangible thing. I am curious about soap or petrol or cool drink because I want to see how it interacts with the person who consumes it, with the environment that it's made, how it's made, and how it could be better. So, of course, this just translates into fashion. It's kind of an obvious, natural thing because I feel like when I was an accountant, I was still first and foremost Shamyra. So when I'm the designer, I'm still first and foremost the same person. An industry, you kind of can learn quickly. You can make me an accountant, you can make me a designer, you can make me, a teacher. The thing is, you can learn those skills, but the very essence of who you are, how you think, how you interact with people around you, that fundamental never changes.
With you, Khensani, do you find that consumer behaviors has changed, especially within the last decade, in terms of people trying to support local and how they're trying to create a circular economy of wearing local and looking global? Do you find that there's a huge change, or is there a change?
I think that's not so much a change, but in terms of, there's been, I think, a lot of shift. It's like a rising tide lifts all boats, right? So the more people have access to certain infrastructure, to certain levels of income, I don't think anyone specifically undervalues local fashion. I think a lot of people are very patriotic in that way. They really do want to support. It is just something that seems distant to them, or it seems out of their means, or they're not really shown why they should connect with something. And I think a lot of people have the capacity and the willingness to. It is up to like us as designers, as media, to really just show people on a real human connection level, like why this matters, what this means to you. The more we support local, the more we can manufacture locally, the more we can employ people locally, which again just improves everything for everyone. The better we can pay everyone, the more we can make sure we're doing things in the most ethical, productive way. And I think a lot more people are becoming a lot more conscientious to that recently. But I think we still do have a while away to go in order of just finding, especially as distinctly South African or African way of communicating that, right? Because the kind of messages we have in the West are not the messages we need here. And that's a really important part of that.
That as much as people are becoming conscious, are they intentionally going out there and supporting and buying local, not only for weddings and special occasions, but making it an everyday lifestyle existence?
Yeah, I mean, like, and I'm sure some of you are familiar, like if you go to West Africa, East Africa, when people wear traditional clothing there, it's just clothing, right? Whereas in South Africa, it is heritage there, it's weddings, which is very funny as such a diverse, culturally rich country. We have, I mean, you look at Shamyra's work, it's so beautiful, it's rich with history and all of everything about her perspective, and it's not something we see often enough. But I think, if we look at the local designers recently who are making waves, even actually across the continent. If you think of your Richinisis, you look at someone like Shamyra, you think of a Kenneth Eze, all of these people are doing really well because they're tapping into their culture. We've seen a lot of Western stories. We know what comes from there. And everyone is hungry for something that represents them and speaks to them. And I think it's just a matter of making people understand that your culture is not a costume, it is you. You should wear that every day, you should proudly embody it, because everyone else everywhere does it. And we just have to sort of tap into that a lot more. But I think the young designers today are really good at that, more so than I think anyone before.
For me, the most troubling moment is when design, especially African designers, are boxed, where it's only I'm going to a wedding, I'm going to an African theme party. So for me, why can't consumers be educated to buy a crisp white shirt from a local designer? Why does it have to be an occasional wear, on occasion for designers to actually start making money? You can even answer that.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Khensani.
I was just going to say, I think if you think about the historical context as well, like we used to have a beautiful, thriving textile industry during apartheid, right? And a lot of that was because of all the sanctions and stuff. So we had to be very self-reliant. And once we entered democracy, we obviously started importing a lot more. And I think for like the past 20 years, we've also just trained people locally to expect clothing to be cheap, to expect clothing to be foreign, and not really to engage in that way. So I think it's a matter of, I don't think anyone is against local design. They've just never learned to be accustomed to that. A lot of people as well, especially young people right now, are not even familiar with like natural fabrics. Most of them have grown up with polyester that washes out really quickly, that falls apart after 5 wears. It's an actual cultural shift that needs to happen in order for people to be able to recognize quality, number one, and then also recognize quality in their own home country.
Go back to Alia. We had a conversation earlier. Can you just go through what we spoke about specifically with the fabric that you're wearing and what were the problems in getting more of that to supply?
Yes, because the issue, the most important issue that fashion designers are facing right now, so that they can go into, like, for example, circular fashion or like sustainable fashion, is the fact that the supply is quite complicated. Like they can try to start a line, try to start selling some product, and it will take, people will love it, people will want it, and then they start producing it, and then the people, like, there's a demand, and then they try to buy again the fabric, and the fabric is,
can't find it.
There's a shortage. Like, for example, what I'm wearing is exactly the example of that, because like I wanted, like, I have really,
Just take us through the whole story with
yes,
specifically.
so
with
the
that.
thing is, like, this one, like, even like last year, I wanted to do a collection that is 100% African, like really from the cotton to the end production, like totally sustainable and totally made locally. So I was in contact with a factory who were in Senegal who produced the cotton. And I had my role, so I was happy. I made a whole collection out of it, and it was working well, because the reality is that the cotton is a very good quality one, very easy to wear and adapted to our climate. So I started selling it, and then when I wanted to buy again, they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, the production that we had is sold out." I say, "Okay, but when are you going to produce it again?" "Oh, we don't know. We are short in financing, and like to start the machine again, you have to get a minimum of 1 million
meters.
I'm like, I can't. So I said, so, and when are you gonna, is there like a timing or something? No, we don't know. I said, so why do you have this issue? Oh, is the government, because we are waiting for financing, the time that the process is over, it will take like 3-4 months, like a year it's been a year now. They still haven't started, resume again. So you can, like, no matter how fashion designers locally are trying to make things made in Africa, it's very complicated. We have the same issue when it's like about like traditional fabric also. There is a lot of issues about like the finishing, about the quality control, because also when you want to export, you have to reach out for those quality control. And me, for example, when I'm trying to dye, for example, silk, hand dyed, the way they tie it so tight that it's making holes in the fabric. So like for you will do 100 meters of silk with the price it's costing and the price of dyeing, and then you end up, instead of 100 meters, you can use only 50 or 60. And you can't explain that to customer. And in terms of finishing, at the end of the day, you are so tired with also the deadline that are not respected. So I think this is a multiple aspect problem about sustainability, and about also like how local designer can really break through, because most of the time you can't go on, like even in terms of communication, you can't go on a sustainable communication about your product, because usually you can't really maintain the same design for long. Yeah.
I'm just going to go back to Patini yesterday. After her show, because I looked at the visuals, can you have the mic? Because we were engaging in a conversation, and she just told me about her trip that she took, where she went to a plant where the whole family was involved in dyeing fabric. Can you just take us through that story again?
Yeah, I went. You can hear me now? I went to East Africa.
It's not on. Can you help with the mic, please?
Hi. I went to...
Still not.
Hello?
Yes, now it's working.
Yeah, it's now.
Hi. First of all, my name is Batini. I'm the creative designer for Batini Designs. So we were talking yesterday about the textiles that I used for my collection. I actually went to East Africa to have it made specifically. It's like wax African print that I had to spend about a week for us to make, the quantities that we needed and bring back home this side. I spent that week with it's a family-run business that's been through like 4 different generations, where everybody from the nephews to the uncles, they're like involved. I was quite interested in seeing how they were producing the stuff, because they don't require electricity. Even the setup itself is just outside, so there's a lot of like exposure to like fresh air and because they use wax and they use little fire pots where they heat up the wax. The conditions also are quite a little bit dangerous, I think, for the people that are working there, So I was looking for authentic sort of African print, not necessarily the ones like the one I'm wearing now, which
Not like a specific, like an Ankara or something.
yeah, like an Ankara.
It's another issue that we have to address. Yeah, definitely.
I wanted authentic, like originally handmade textiles that would stand out and be unique to my brand specifically, because I've been using a lot of Ankara and a lot of people have access to the same textiles. So you make a dress and somebody says, oh, I've seen that print used by another person. Exactly. So that's why I try to explore, like I'm very much interested in textile design. So what you were explaining about excess, and you get a roll, you make your collection, the next thing you go back, you try to get more, it's gone, there's nowhere to be found. There's no way you can find the same thing again. I also go through the same thing, so that resonated with me as well. It's a big challenge. I have no clue how we're going to overcome that, and it's also an expensive challenge.
But also this exactly what we spoke about in terms of that kind of expensive, where someone like Shein or Zara would have the same particular dress, but because you have had to manufacture your own fabric in small quantities, your price points go up, and a local consumer would not buy your garment because they're thinking they can get almost a similar design from a retailer at a quarter of the price.
Exactly.
And those are the type of issues that we need to redress. And coming back to you, Shamyra, how did you manage to fuse that moment between you being an economist and a business strategist to actually sitting down and refining your design methodology into being a sustainable brand?
So I'll get to that, but I just want to, on the question you were talking about here about the fabric, and then like, you know, when you want to produce in volume and stuff, how do you manage around that? So my business model is the complete opposite. It flips that on its head, and it's really a focus on unique pieces that are one of a kind, and that kind of is where it actually gives you the added advantage, and part of like you could term it your marketing strategy, is where I can guarantee I can't make more than one or maybe two of the same piece. And that is the value that I give to the consumer, that you are getting an art piece, that you are getting a once-off piece. So for me, it's a question of you really educating your consumer that we can co-create together. This is literally what I have. So I don't use any new material. I don't actually make fabric from scratch. I might take a piece of fabric and dye over it or paint over it or embroider it. But nothing I purchase is new. And I think it really is about a mindset and changing the consumer, perhaps a retailer, to understand that if I remain true to what I believe is sustainability to me and to my brand, then this is what you need to expect. And so my business model is really around value rather than volume, and really getting that mindset across to the consumer. Hello?
How do you classify yourself? Can you hear me? How do you classify yourself as a designer? Because for me, like you just said now, you can't make more than two of each. How do you classify yourself as a designer? Are you an occasional wear designer, or are you a commercial designer, or are you just a designer, period?
So yes, I am a designer, period. And I thought what is available to me in terms of the raw material I can source in the most responsible way. So everything I source is from Cape Town, nowhere else. And a lot of it is just donations of waste from factories, from students, from people who, you know, they might have inherited fabric, vintage fabric, which often comes with an incredible set of challenges. And my design is really around taking, you know, damaged fabric and taking waste fabric, taking the flaws and turning it into art pieces that I feel, you know, don't reflect the kind of the history of that. Rather, the value sits in the uniqueness that you're giving to the customer. So I don't say that I only make occasional wear. I make pieces that I want to wear, whether it's for an occasion or an everyday basis, and it continuously evolves, but always starting with what I already have that's available to me. So I'm not trained, I'm trained in design and in fashion. You know, this is something I've been doing ever since I was 12. So, you know, I still have pieces that strangely enough fit me since I was 12 that I had originally designed and my grandmother, who's a seamstress, had made for me. So, you know, it rings bells to me because this is kind of the way I've always been designing, based on what I've had. You know, I work a lot with old vintage fabric, saris, silk, and I can completely understand when you see it weathered, torn. And for me, these are just opportunities to kind of fuel the creativity and create these unique pieces. But of course, the mindset transition to who is buying this piece needs to happen, where they understand the process, where they even may able to co-create with you. You know, so it's tricky, it's incredibly difficult. But there's value in it, and I feel like in a way it's representing what possibly sustainability should and could look like in the future. So when I started this whole thing, it wasn't like I mean 2 or 3 years ago, I probably never really even knew there was a term as sustainable fashion or anything like that. So everything that happened to me has happened in a very organic way. You know, it was just, I was wearing something I made sitting at an AFI show. Somebody who's Susie Menkes from Vogue, who's the ex-editor of Vogue International, was sitting across from me. And, you know, we got into a conversation and she said, you should really do this. And I said, no, I'm an accountant, I'm a mom, I'm going back to work. You know, I don't want to get into the commercial aspects of fashion because I'm not sure that's the scene I want to be a part of. I believe in sustainability, and I question whether you can have true sustainability and scalability in the same sentence. And like as an accountant, I could already see like this commercial aspect of fashion would be very challenging, and it's not something I want to do. However, life has other plans for me. So for me, I never made this decision, this is what I'm going to do. It was the opportunity, me taking a few risks and engaging in a very organic way with consumers and the whole fashion industry at large. So, yeah.
Yeah, for me, I have to go back to how
Yes.
secular and how sustainable is your brand equity. Because for me, the most
Completely.
important thing, there might be someone in this room who might be thinking the same way that you are, but they are thinking, I won't be able to be successful. How would you define your brand equity in terms of sustainability and how you push yourself into the secular movement?
Completely. So for me, I said I always started with what was already available, waste from factories, and then of course donated fabric. So that 100%. I started with a domestic sewing machine, which I've always had. I decided to use my home as my studio. That was a decision I chose to make, and a decision I will adhere to. And then that question of scalability always will come into play, because I mean, my carbon footprint of my home is quite big, but you couldn't have 10 seamstresses or even 5 sitting in my home studio for it to work. But I have never funded my business with any of my own money, and I haven't had any outside investment, aside from the small prize that I won from AFI. So it's grown in an organic way using social media, where customers have come to me, say, oh, wow, I love that piece that you're wearing. Can you make me something similar? And then the value comes into that play. But if you look at it, the profit that I made after my first year, which was last year, which people are often surprised at, how did you make a profit when you didn't invest anything after a first year? Like, how do you do that? But of course, I did. And a lot of it is using this fabric that came to me at very little cost. However, a lot of it was very labor intensive, very much my own hands that made everything and still continues to cut everything. But that profit that I made after the first year, for example, I looked at my studio, my space, and I thought, well, how can I make the studio itself as sustainable as possible with the lowest carbon footprint? So, for example, we've installed all the rainwater collection systems. So all the fabric that I dye and wash, when using old damaged fabric, there is water wastage. So all of that is rainwater collected water. The whole studio is running on solar panels. Again, that was just, I paid for that completely using the profit that I made in the first year. Then I've also started myself fixing old sewing machines, the treadle kind that don't actually need electricity. Again, because even though you have the solar panels, sometimes that isn't sufficient to run the studio. So just to look at different ways of how can I better what I do, how to even sometimes limit the supply of what I'm making. I don't only, my fashion is not my only source of income. For me, it's very important to be a part of a team. And I don't really have that when I work in fashion on my own a lot of the time. So I also work in the creative industry. So I also act in commercials, and I've always been doing that since I was a teenager. And of course, Cape Town has a very big creative industry, film industry. So there's opportunities for me to work in that space as well. So it's just to know that, sometimes success, it's not very linear, and there's different revenues, for example, for me, in terms of funds that I get, but also in terms of how I create. A lot of it is based on sometimes when I work in the film industry and the people and the stories that I engage with that sometimes fuels back into my creative work. Yes.
You mentioned something very important. Not everyone comes very lucky or comes from a background where they are allowed to think or to produce without stressing. How do you find funding is in Africa?
Well, I'm sorry. There are some stuff I want to go back
No,
on, because I think it's very important when we are an open conversation and a masterclass. Is like you have the ability to talk about what most of the time you don't hear. And I think all the stories of designers are different, and all the background.
Yeah.
And I think this is a niche market. this is a very specific niche market, because I know when I started, it was the same, like I will do unique pieces, I will take things and all, but there's nothing worse than a customer who say, oh, I saw that, or you will communicate on that aspect, on that pictures, on your social media and all, and then you say, sorry, the fabric is out. Sorry, I can't do that anymore. There is nothing more frustrating for a customer, and usually they don't come back. You say it once, you say it twice, they don't come back, and they really make you a bad publicity, like this is only online, and but she actually doesn't do anything. So the first years I was doing custom-made pieces, and it wasn't, all the stories are different, but it wasn't profitable. I started earning money only when I started like doing
Mass production.
I won't say mass production. That's why
medium mass.
As I like to say, it's a house. Like in French, we say maison de couture. The old way, when people were doing in-house, but like you follow up. So it's like a maison de couture, where we do pieces, we do like a ready-to-wear, but we don't do mass production. Like we will do 10, 15 pieces that I will send in different things. So as I say, it's like affordable luxury. So it's for a certain specific clientele. So also the pricing is calculated really precisely so that I don't add too much cost on it. So for example, I don't have a brick and mortar shop. I have a showroom in my house so that I don't have fixed costs.
Fixed costs.
That increased.
Which is very similar to what Shamyra is going.
Exactly, and that's what saved me during COVID, because during COVID, everything was closed, people were not selling. What will you do? So what saved my company really was that I didn't have those fixed costs except my workers. And then I said, okay, we can't sell now. I took in my saving, I said, I will pay you. I use the fabric that I have in stock. I said, let's do that, like on basic models, basic designs, and then when things will start to come back, then I will be able to sell it. So I think like I was just waiting for it to go back. So I think also like we go back on sustainability and circular fashion. I think one of the main aspects is also to be able to create, to design things that will not like get out of fashion. So I always create, what I like is what my customer loves is like when you buy an outfit from me, you can wear it in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and it won't be out of style, because this is like connected also to an image, a brand identity. I think this is very important for fashion designers. You have a specific brand identity. And as you say, you have a storytelling also around all the fact that you are not using anything to waste. You take everything, and as you say, it's a piece of art. So it's very interesting. So the thing is, like, also we come back to the specific aspect that is very important to educate the people, to educate the customers. And that's very, very, this is the hardest part. And most of the time, people don't realize the communication, there is a cost for it. Like doing pictures, like the thing is, like when you're starting a business here, you are the CEO, you are the creative director, you are
marketing manager,
brand manager, marketing manager, quality control manager.
Your own lawyer sometimes.
So you are, and this is draining mentally. Yeah. And the thing is, people, what is strange is like African consumer are like rising their how do you say, the requirement. They want
the standards,
but they don't want to rise the price. They want low price,
which is where I'm going to go to. I'm going to make a very simple example. There's Africa Rise in Sentin City, and for me, it flabbergasts me all the time that I will walk past Africa Rise, where it's got over 20 African designers, but when I walk straight past Gucci and Louis Vuitton, there are queues outside. And it is African people who are in those queues. So how do we now shift that mindset? We need to shift that mindset of starting to believe in our own quality control, in our own designs, in our own people. So for me, it's not even a South African issue. It's a continental issue.
Exactly.
It's a continental issue of people consistently thinking that anything made in France or anything made in Europe or in America is of higher standard. So we have to start shifting, and for me, I'm very happy there are students who are here. How do they now shift that narrative? Because they are also adapting to that when it comes to their iPhones and their social media existence and their inspiration when it comes to that. So we have to literally wipe off and start from scratch.
Definitely. I think for to educate people, and also like we have to change the narratives. Before, like all the narratives and the beauty standards was set by like European or American. So it's very important that also like in the media, through media, us as African, we have also our strong media platform who emphasize on the African beauty. So what I love, it's not perfect, but from Nigeria. I'm from Niger, but in Nigeria is a good example of how they change the narrative little by little with the like movie industry.
The movie industry, the music
industry.
now, the
So when you
fashions
go
and
there,
everything
yes,
is very,
when you go there,
very
people
secular.
consume local, and they are happy to wear, like even during business meeting, everything they wear African attire, and it's rich about that. And I think it's very important for us all across the continent to do that. And also like in terms of also beauty standards, like for example, me, I go back to natural hair like a few years back when I realized like, why should I am a grown-up woman, I don't even know my real texture of hair, like what the hell.
Relaxing your hair.
Yeah, I was doing it since I was 15, and I was like, I don't know how God made my own hair. So it was also a process of like
rediscovery.
Exactly. And I think it's very important. So even when I'm doing shooting pictures, like photo shooting and all, I always want to take natural woman, no fake hair, no fake eyelash, like with like more natural possible. And even like the heels. Why is it defined? The beauty is defined by heels. Why women should like kill their spine? Because the Europeans said that. No, usually, I'm always on flat. So usually I will try to do like barefoot or like small heels or whatever. It's like, I think it's important to have all the facets to say that your beauty can exist no matter what. And it's like there is no standards. Like, let's just crush that. And you are like African women are beautiful naturally, no matter what, and no matter the skin tone or whatever.
For me, I'm just gonna divert to the lady with the red hair, who's a journalist. I just want, from a media perspective, what are we saying? What are our narratives? What are our stories? What are our designs? What is given in media consistently?
I love the question. Hi, everyone. This is Ritumi Shamyra from Entertainment SA. So to answer your question, Felipe, I feel like fashion doesn't get a lot of coverage in media, first of all.
Fashion or beauty or both?
Both, let's say both. And I think specifically, let's narrow it down to fashion. I think media could do a lot better in terms of educating people about what is happening on the African footprint. I think we shouldn't always write about stories that have to do with things that cost more being outside. And we shouldn't look at Africa as something that costs so much that we can't afford it.
Yeah.
If we can afford brands that are outside of Africa, why are we not looking at home first? And why is the media also telling us that Shein or other products that are of less value, actually, that cost less, are what we should be looking at? So I think me being here and understanding how the fashion industry actually works is one step closer to the media covering African stories and African fashion, on an understanding that we can actually be the game changers, because you consume what we write.
But
So
also,
I need to have right
I just
information.
find in terms of media, it's very segmented in terms of there aren't people with knowledge that can sit down and analytically write about Batini's collection from last night, or with Alibari's collection. We are missing those experts when it comes to representation in what we read and what we consume in terms of the media. And for me, beyond the fashion student studying fashion, if you feel that I can't make clothes anymore, you can write about fashion, but you're coming from an informed point of view. So I think we also have to diversify what students study in fashion college. It's not necessary for you to sit in a studio and make clothes. There is so much you could be doing within the spectrum of fashion that could be a force in informing the consumer eventually.
And also, I agree with you, getting journalists in spaces like that as well, because the students actually have a voice.
Because I'm going to make another example, sorry. There used to be a girl, Pastor Emma, so rest in peace, very wrong. Everything that you wrote about, what he spoke about, was about movies. He could not write anything else but movies. Well, we need someone, even when art, or even a music writer, a music journalist, or even a dance writer. So we need specialists when it comes to their African creativity in being delivered on those newsstands and on television, on all the mediums. So I really think that we have to rethink beyond what we wear, what we consume, and what we see is who we are. And we are not what we want to see and read. That's why we end up reading what the European standards are all about.
Right. And I think us being here is taking a step in the right direction to be able to tell our stories in our own voices.
Thank you. So moving forward, I just want to open up to anyone, before we even do Q&As, there are lots of students who might be having questions that they want to ask all of us that we're here, so that as we move forward, we are creating little paragraphs of how we could put a little treaty together to give to Moodley, so that Dr. Precious can take somehow to the United Nations or to UNESCO, so that we move forward in a positivity way. So let's open it up as we engage in throughout, whoever wants to ask questions or who wants to contribute about anything that we started talking about.
Maybe like to
Okay, I'm going to probe him. He came to me earlier and he told me about the program that is running in Bloemfontein. So can you take us through the SMME problems and what he has within the clothing and textile industry? He can start there.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Quincy Shonyani. I'm from Motel Center for Entrepreneurship and Rapid Incubation in Bloemfontein. So we are having a division in terms of SMEs that are in the fashion space.
Just define what SMMEs are before we even expand to what the problem is.
Okay, so what SMEs are is your small, medium, micro enterprises. So these are small businesses that we have created an ecosystem to incubate them so that they can not have the necessary risk when they are now sustainable in terms of being in the market. So we assist them in terms of business development and support at the incubator. So most of the time what we have realized is that the SMEs that are in the fashion space, the clothing space, in the fashion studio, they will work and they will overwork, but in terms of maybe revenues, it won't be that much in terms of profit. So this is the first major problem that we have identified.
But isn't that what you're supposed to do as a structure, as an incubator, to help them come up with that formula of sustaining their businesses?
Yes. So what we do as the incubator, we will plug them into different workshops so that they can get the necessary knowledge in terms of them having access to market. So you get that what maybe the clients will complain about will be that they are charging much, but in terms of the quality of the garment is very poor. So you get a garment that after they have washed it, after a certain time, it is no longer wearable. So that has been the issue. So now we are looking into getting quality fabrics that will, maybe in terms of competition, we can go head to head with the retail space. So this is what we are really challenged with. For example, we are having one of the SMEs that is going to have a fashion show this 25th of November. So we did quality assessment in terms of the garments, and we saw that this is seriously of low quality, and we are trying to figure out
But which is exactly why I'm putting on the platform, because
Yes,
for
sir.
me, that's exactly what I said. There are lots of students here, there are lots of young designers who could be putting their heads together and coming to you. But another important factor, you cannot be informing people without providing a quality education. There cannot be a quality product if there's no quality education. So for me, from your structure, as an incubator, you need to have instructors of quality first for you to be able to get quality back.
And something more, yes, to relate to what you were saying is like, usually like for student in fashion design, normally there are some classes about like textile to understand the textile and all. And I was lucky enough when I was doing my studies to work also in a company specialized in uniforms. So this is when I realized all the process for quality checking, like for uniform before like the assessment for the shrinkage, and then they will wash it like 100 times, the sample, and check the shrinkage and everything. So me, what I've done, because the reality is like people give lesson to fashion designers all the time. Fashion designer, fashion student, everybody is an expert. This is exhausting because every single person, you can't imagine how many times people came to tell me, I have some advice for you, you know, and people who are not even in the fashion industry. If I were you, I will do this and that and that and that. People love doing that. And some people also, customer will always think they are right. I have a fashion designer who is just behind. Last year, she was a bit surprised because one customer was checking at her clothes and she said, oh, I'm not gonna buy it because it's not expensive enough. And she was thinking, I said, no, don't listen to her. Don't listen to her. Maybe it was just an excuse because she didn't know what to say not to buy. But a designer is always thinking on his own and trying to reassess and to see how to sell more or how to please people. And you can't please everybody, first of all. You can't please everybody. You have your niche market. What is important is to find the right, I like to say sweet spot. So like to find the right pricing. You can't have, in marketing, you say you have quality, quantity, and price. You have to pick up two of those. Or you give a good price, but for small, like a small garment or whatever, or you give a price that's a bit higher, but with quality. That's the thing. You cannot, but the thing is like now people are requiring from a fashion designer to have everything together. A good price, the best quality, small quantities, like a limited edition. Come on.
Yeah, but also what I found with small businesses and upcoming designers, you cannot compare yourself to Prada or Gucci. They've got a huge building full of infrastructure. They've got one floor just full of fabric technology. They've got a whole floor full of marketing. So you cannot compare yourself. You have to come back into your own little bedroom and start producing your own quality. Exactly what Shamyra said. Use the resources that you have. Become much more vigilant in your marketing and strategy, but also fundamentally, it's about design identity. Design identity will make your garment last longer. It will make you much more visible to a new market and to a nuanced market, and that's how you get your food out there.
Yes. To come back to your thing, because the thing is like sometimes we're asking questions, but we don't really give proper answer. For me as a designer with small means, I will say to answer back for those kind of things about quality control, what I do to solve that is like usually I do the prototypes and I wear them.
Yeah.
That's the only thing.
That's the only way.
Yes, I will wear them. If it's for menswear and you are a woman, you ask for some people in your family and to wear it as more as they could, like during 2 weeks, you will, so that, and they wash it, you put it in the machine, you let it, so that when even the customer complain, you know what you are talking about. Because some customers are not, that sometimes they exaggerate, sometimes, you know, and you have tried yourself, you have worn it, so you know what are the specificities, you know that you have cleaned it, you know that there was no problem. So that's the only thing I would say, like the affordable solution is just proof test yourself.
I was talking to their fast track finalists yesterday. I'm going to ask all the designers here, how many of you are wearing your own creations today? Please stand up. We want to see that. You can stand. How many of you are wearing your own creations? And you must stand up and say, I'm wearing this because it's this and this and this and that. I'm going to have the mic walk around. For me, it's a challenge. It's a challenge where, like Ali said, you have to start wearing your product first for people to love your product and for you to understand quality control, pricing, and what the consumer really needs. Let's start with you, Batini.
I'm Batini from Batini Designs, and I'm wearing what I call a kaftan top. It's a crop top one side, but it covers at the back, which means ladies of all kinds of sizes can wear it, even bigger ladies, because it covers at the back, and they wear it with a high waist, and they can feel confident. I feel confident in it. Today is a nice hot day, so I thought I would come show up. in this way.
Let's give them another one. I just want all of it. This is not about me. This is not about us. We are talking about all of us.
Hello, Joburg speaking. I'm a designer myself. I bought this fabric, I think 3 months ago. I don't know why. I just saw it nice, and then I wore it because it suits my body type, and it's a one size fit all, and it just stands out. I love my colors.
Cool.
Yeah.
See.
Thanks.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sanel Muji. I'm from Botswana, and I'm wearing one of our recent collection. It's a kaftan. It fits every occasion. We designed for a woman who wants comfort, who wants to feel, comfortable, not restricted. Because normally, fashion people relate it to being too tight. Like today's woman want to be free. She wants to express herself. So our designs are mostly for women who know themselves. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Dumi from Botswana as well. I use linen exclusively for it's hard to find linen anyway. This is like one of the designer's problems is what do I use? I want to stick to linen, but I'm not able to stick to, okay, I'm going to stick to linen. I want to stick to linen. But sometimes you're like, it's so easy to find satin anyway. It's so easy, but I'm gonna stick my guns out because for me, linen is that thing you're going to have in your closet many, many years. Before I was a designer, I was making clothes for myself. And I've had dresses that I've had from 2016 that I still wear now because of the longevity. And I think that's what people want to buy. People want things that they will, if I'm going to pay, like people, she says, people are not ready to, they have expectations that are so
Sometimes they don't want to pay.
But they're not going to take their bill there. They refuse. So to meet with them where they are, you need to also not worry about do I need to change? Stick to what you're doing. They'll meet you on the way. And I've said to people, sometimes you make clothes that are the things that you want to do, people will come and change you. My clothes are unconventional, but I'll have people come to me because they want a dress made a certain way. A few years ago, I'll do that because I wanted the money. But I'm refusing more and more so that my creativity also comes
through.
Because that's what saves us. That's what you want to do. But someone wants to give you what you should do for them. And
at half the price.
Yes. And customers, unfortunately, are difficult. And it's every designer's story, I think. So I lost my train of thought. But what I'm saying is sometimes we just need to meet each other halfway as the designer and the consumer to be able to stick your guns out.
I think that for me, the most important part, which is a very disappointing part, are the students who are in the room. Because for me, that's where they're supposed to be refining their design methodology and their identity as designers. And for me, I always say you should be making one item a day if you're creative. For yourself, especially while you are still in a design institution, where you wear and tear and you experiment. And it's not about expensive fabric. You just buy plain calico and play with calico. It's as simple as that. Make a top, dye it, bead it. For me, it's very disappointing that there are students here who could not stand up and say, I'm wearing my creation. I'm doing second year or first year. For me, we have to shift that. That's where I'm at. For me, I will grill you until you're blue. Sure. That is my whole MO, is to grill young creatives in making themselves believe that there is something better than H&M and Zara.
And experimenting.
And but that's the reason I'm saying they must buy the cheapest fabric, which is calico. And they can play with that and play with silhouettes. For me, you should be sitting in your rooms with your sewing machines, not drinking something from Starbucks and chilling with your friends. That's all I'm saying. You need to start going back to yourself and sitting in your rooms. After lecture, you go into your room and you create something for yourself, for the consumer to see.
And by wearing it, all my prototypes, we do the sample. Always, I like to say, like my chef d'atelier is always laughing because I used to be skinnier. So we were doing all the prototype on 38. So I got a bit fat. And he said, okay, should I do 42? I said, no. The 38 is, the 42 is still 38. Just tell me, and we keep that way. And I'm wearing, and He's behind me and I'm in the mirror and I'm doing the alteration myself in the mirror, because this is the best way to see how normal
fits.
women, yes, everything fits models. The models fit, and usually even most of the time when I finish a prototype and when I put them on models, actually it doesn't look that good.
That good.
Because even when in fashion school, you know, six head, I'm sorry, models, if they are models, they are not normal. The proportion are not normal, sorry. When you see one head, two head, it's not normal. Even me, I'm tall, but my torso and all is like, I've never been a model because I'm just like, they just exercise me, but I don't have the proportion. So what you are designing, when you are designing, don't think about the models.
Think about the normal
about
day,
the
everyday person.
customers, yes, because as I told you, I made many runways. I didn't sold a single piece of those runways. It's the normal. Your best ambassadors, your best brand ambassadors are the normal women wearing your outfit in the present, and people ask them, "Whoa, I love what you are wearing." They are your best ambassador. Don't try to find influencers or models. Your best influencers are your customer, the people who believe in your brand.
I'm just going to go back on track, get back on track. In terms of going back to one of the fundamental things that affects creativity is funding. How have you found funding? I'm going to start with you, Shamyra. Have you ever asked for funding? How did you go about it? You just came back from Milan. How was that experience? Who took you there? Just give us a little synopsis of what happened.
Okay, so I mean, over the last year, I've been invited to go to, I went to the US, I went to Paris, sorry, it all seems like a lot now. I went to the US, I went to Paris, of course, Milan, and now I went to India. So 3 out of those 4 were all outside Africa, people who invited me. So I often ask people, so how do you even know about me? And they said, oh, we were just Googling and we came across your Instagram or we came across your story and we thought, oh, this is so different. We'd want to invite you. So for example, when I went to the US, the person had said to me, I found you on a news article and I'm based in the US. I'm in Denver, Colorado. Would you be interested in sending a collection and we'll showcase it? And I said, no, thank you. I'm very much an emerging designer. And I feel like if my clothing is going to be showcased, it's very important for me to be there to tell my narrative of this clothing. This is just what's important to me. And she said to me, well, then we're going to have to find a way to get you there. And so the idea was that I would have the opportunity to speak, and I got to speak at a museum, just sharing my story and just a little bit about my identity and the way I design. The next day was a little show, and then the following day was a pop-up. And I love that because I got to tell my story. I got to actually show the clothing all in isolation, and then I got to execute the sale. And in many ways, people had followed me through that. So they listened, they'd asked questions, they'd seen the actual thing in real life, and then, of course, they got the opportunity to buy. And that was incredibly successful. Again,
Shamyra, I just want to, sorry, I just want us to sort of like localize it. I do get with your point of being spotted. For me, it's very important how, even from a South African perspective, I've known of designers who have been taken to Paris and to Milan, and most of them are closed down. For me, how is funding helping designers push their brand overseas? For me, we need to start addressing that. It's the same thing I'm going to ask Ali. From where you're based, are you getting government funding to help you to export and import?
Okay, so the only opportunity where the support came from South Africa to take me was to Milan. And I initially, it wasn't something that I really thought would make sense because it was very much a trade exhibition, and I'm not really interested in a business to business model. I believe for me to build the foundation of my business, I want a direct link to the customer. And that's why I love social media, because you don't need funding to be able to connect with the customer. Anywhere in the world, you can connect to a customer using social media. So you don't need that push. And so the reason why I was trying to give you the 4 examples is because when it happened in an organic way and I was invited from outside of South Africa, 3 out of the 4 were incredibly successful from a sales point of view. Whereas Milan, I personally, that experience was something, that I don't feel fitted into the values of my business as such, because I don't think it was really tailored in kind of a focus towards sustainability and changing the precedent that currently exists. People who come to that trade show, they were very interested in the product, but as the minute we got down to conversations around pricing, they're like, oh, wow, that's so expensive. We operate on a completely different model in Italy, and you need to sell us for this particular price, and then we need to sell it for 4 times more. And I was like, no, so you like the concept of sustainability, but this financial precedent needs to also change. That might have worked historically, but it won't work now. And it's a question of strategic partnerships when it comes to sustainability. And I don't think the industry, as it stands, is ready to have those kind of connections and conversations and push African designers to keep the majority of that margin. So this is what I'm saying. Funding doesn't always necessarily equate in guaranteed sales. If the business side of fashion is not truly understood. Yeah.
But don't you think somehow governmental funding also helps sustain and maintain and celebrate heritage and cultural elements within music, within art, within dance, within all the forces that make us who we are? I really believe that without government funding, without us paying taxes, beyond the medical, beyond hospitals and that, we need to be preserving some kind of heritage and cultural values.
For sure, and we should be challenging how to get the maximum value out of every single cent of government money spent. And for me as a designer, that due diligence needs to be done to make sure that when you send designers overseas, that will for sure result in sales for a long-term strategy. So, that whole due diligence beforehand, the support during and after, it needs to be happened, and the learnings and the outcomes need to be put back into the next set of funding that goes through. For me, those business cases, they really, really need to be done, the due diligence. For sure, the funding is needed. It is an incredible opportunity to kind of ensure growth, but the diligence needs to be done. And so,
Divert a little bit. I'm just going to tell a South African story. Thabo Makuku won the LMVH prize. For me, it's very insulting somehow that the majority of the country were not aware who Thabo Makuku is. Right now, Lukanya Mdingi from Cape Town just got the Amiri Prize. For me, how many South Africans, even young designers, know who Lukanya is? For me, if you're not driving that from a governmental point of view and backing, not necessarily funding in terms of cash, but in terms of infrastructure, in terms of voice, in terms of exports, in terms of machinery, there's so many ways that it could be restructuring the element of patriotism. Right now, the Rugby World Cup just happened. Everyone was jumping up and down. The very same day, Lukanya won an award. No one spoke about it. For me, there's a bit of where are we as a country? Are we that much driven by rugby and beer than we are driven by our clothes?
Maybe can I go to that? Because it's, sorry, Abi, but because we keep talking about that, I think it's very important also. Me, from my background, like usually people always complain, and most of those kind of discussion, we always come back to, oh, the government should do this, the government should do that. The reality is, like, let's be honest.
They're not doing anything.
It's not going to happen. Even when it's happening, even when there are some subsidies, I'm not talking about South Africa, please don't.
The continent.
But in West Africa, please, it's important. I want to go back home safely. But like in West Africa, like really there are like corruption everywhere. So even when there are subsidies, those subsidies, they will manage to go to the same people. This is, I think, most of the designers are frustrated because you will see some delegation going abroad and you are like, what the hell, where this guy coming from? Why did he got it? I never heard about this going on, and it's happening. And me really and even after you can come and talk to me, I know what I've been through. I know all the struggles, and the problem is that most of the people don't say the truth. There is a storytelling around fashion, and people don't realize, like the storytelling, like I had $100 in my bank account from blah blah blah. This is not the reality. The reality, me, I will say it, when I started, I had some savings because like I had some saving aside. I was married, so everything. But I had to sell almost everything that I got. The reality is like I gave everything to fashion. I was to a point where I was here, and some people say, oh, I had this profit, and this profit, I put it back in the business to this. But me, my profit is to pay my girls' school. My profit pay my electricity. My profit pay my food. So how do you want me to put it back? You can't. And to go back to government, me, for example, why I'm sitting here right now, like recently, 1 month ago, I managed to had some subsidies from the Senegalese government where they are investing. But even that, I heard it from like 50% of the designer I know already got it. They never told me anything. It's really by I don't know, by mistake. I heard about that, and then I went and I applied, and I got like the subsidy of like $30,000. But the problem of the subsidies, like for now, like they will reimburse me my travel ticket to come here at a high of 75%. But what happens is that I have to put all the money up front. And the main issue in fashion industry is cash flow, cash flow, cash flow, cash flow.
Yeah, but it also goes back to what I spoke about. It's about the discipline when you start business. It's about having an accountant. It's about having the lawyer. So for me, that structure is fundamentally important.
Yes, but the
and
reality
in the same way,
complicated.
I'm not dissing rugby. All I'm saying, the same jerseys that play their way are made by fashion designers. So for why can't we get almost a similar kind of respect when it comes to that? They will not be playing naked to win the World Cup. They're wearing the jerseys. Those were made by the clothing and textile industry. So why isn't the funding when it comes to that?
But you talk about like even that. But even, for example, one main aspect is that even fashion runways. Like I always say, like for us, most of the time, designers, we will come, they will ask us to come and showcase for free when the tickets are for sale, or to even pay for that. I say, but do you ask us singers or musicians
just come perform for free?
Come to perform for free? No. And that's the thing, is also the narratives has to change even in the fashion industry, because there's so many people, they just come and showcase, but they don't sell. A lot of fashion designers, famous fashion designers, sorry, me, I'm not lying. I'm saying things the way it is, and I learned it the hard way, because I was trying to do things. I was like, why is not working for me? Why this and why that? But the reality is that a lot of them, they are on all papers. They are worn by celebrities. They don't sell anything. That's the reality. Let's be honest. Most of the people who sell the most, they are like low profile. And always check when you see on papers, you see on newspaper, and media has a responsibility also on that.
Completely.
Media has the responsibility, because they are showcasing those people, but they are not talking about the people who really make money and the people who are bankable. This is there's a reality between exposure and the real economy. So,
but also going back to media again, like for instance, I've just been asked to style a South African who's becoming an international phenomenon. I'm not going to mention names. And the first thing I said to the manager, don't expect me to use Dolce & Gabbana and Gucci. The first thing, for the whole database of Africa, I will source until all my freckles are removed. That's my first thing. Why can't people start speaking that kind of language in terms of deliverables? For me, that's important. Whether it's an African actor or a musician, when they're walking the Oscars, they're not wearing African clothes. I'm not saying why African clothes isn't print. I'm saying African design. They're not wearing that. So it's also the hypocrisy that's within the creative industries that is so obvious, that immediately someone makes it up, the first thing they think about is a pair of Gucci shoes and a Gucci handbag. Exactly. They're not thinking about Ali. They're not thinking about Patini. So for me, it is that kind of shift that consistently, from the creative industries, we have to start talking about that on its own.
This is true, but to come back to that, sometimes like we talk about celebrities and all, it's easy also to tell, okay, this, I know like a few years back, I managed that Rudy Gobert, famous NBA player, wore some of my outfit. He never tagged me, and the reality is what? He's not allowed to.
He's not allowed to.
He's not allowed to in his contract and everything. He has sponsorship. with some companies. So the reality is sometimes it's easy to complain, but they have their own reality and they have contracts that are very heavy and all. Some celebrities, this is, now this is very trendy now. You have celebrities coming during the fashion
week, yeah.
And after
Especially
that,
NBA players.
Yes, and after that they become brand ambassador. So they have, even them, they have like a communication around that to be trendy and all. And me, I know, because even like I had some talking about like the new Victor Wembe, I don't know how to pronounce it, blah, 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 the new NBA player. So I had contacts and all, like he wanted to wear some of my clothes, but it's too complicated because now all the LV is on him, this and that. So of course he's not gonna wear it. The reality is like we don't have the money. So some are like trying, and when they want to do things, they will do their own brand. That's the reality. They do their own brand. When they want to do
diversify,
they create themselves. So I think there are a lot of people who want to talk. Yes.
Yeah.
Is it on? I have a question. So I'm a content writer actually at AFI, and I've written a few articles about circularity and sustainability, and it's very much something that I'm still learning about and researching. But one thing that I keep coming across is how Copenhagen Fashion Week, for example, instituted like sustainability prerequisites. So you have to meet it in certain ways if you are serious and you want to showcase. And every time I come across it, I wonder if it would be something valuable here on the continent. And I just want to know, like, as designers, what do you think that it has value, or do you have concerns about like hindrances?
I'm going to go back. The United Nations has got a 17 sustainability goal program that has been not implemented throughout the continent. There are things that are just written down for the Treaty of AGOA that is affecting the clothing and textile industry and designers majorly. Our governments are just signing away papers without thinking through and thinking about the people on the ground. So there's a lot of work, there's a lot of groundwork that needs to be done pertaining to all those type of issues. We might write that wish list, but that wish list might happen in 50 years. But the most important thing, we can't stop fighting.
But if designers were kept accountable by the fashion weeks, the platforms that they seek out, like, do you think that it would be...
No, but it's the same thing. I'm just going to make a similar example, how she got the funding. Other designers got the funding. One designer might do that and get in. But if they see one designer doing it, they might try to do that. Or they might say, oh no, it's a huge road for us. We can't do that. We'll only do what we can sidetrack and do very quickly and become quickly famous. So it's a very dicey moment where there are laws that are being implemented, there are laws that have been written down, but it's also based on how do those, because if a law or a criterion can be written, but it's got to do with if it's mandated and it's within the government gazette. But those things are very important, how we address them, how we keep fighting for them, and how we speak about them, and how design colleges, on the other hand, start implementing that from an education point of view.
And I think what is important is also like, I was coming to that also because the theme today is also like circular and sustainable fashion. I think it's very important to understand that our challenges here make it impossible to meet those requirements. And those requirements have been settled by whom? By Westerners. I'm sorry, but they will put it in a way, let's be honest. I'm not like, I'm a pro-African person. Like, as I say, I design African clothes for African people. And I think it's very important also for African fashion designer to understand that our market is here. As long as they won't understand that we are sufficient.
Our challenges are different.
Yes, and you see like the taxes and the barrier, like with normally when I send things here, there should be no tax. They signed the papers a few years back, but still when I'm sending here, they don't care even about the percentage, even what I declare, making it almost impossible or not profitable to sell, like to ship from Senegal to here.
Yeah.
So why those things take time? In Europe, you can send and there is no tax. And here, they sign the paper, but it's not
implemented.
Yes. So can you imagine for ecological, environmental issues, knowing that even in terms of health or whatever, all the things, all the requirements are not met? And for example, as I was saying, for the material, how do you want to be circular or sustainable when anyway, no matter what, all the fabric is coming from abroad? So just by the fact that you brought the fabric to your place, already there is a carbon impact.
Carbon import
And
tax.
then after you have like to ship it, when you ship it like here by airmail or whatever. So I think let's be realistic. There is things on papers, and the fact is African by nature, we are circular. By nature, fundamentally,
we are sustainable.
we grew up circular. Yeah, we survived. And the thing is, like, as I say, what makes Africa beautiful, and you were talking about your outfit, these African print, they say African print, but actually, it was the
German print.
Hollandese people who were trying to sell it to the, how to say, it to the people from Indonesia, like their batik. They want to do it industrializing, and they didn't love it. Like in Indonesia, they say, this is crap, we don't want it. They had it like that, and they say, oh, what are we going to do with all this excess?
Let's just dump it in Africa.
And this is how. And what made that this fabric became African is the way that we used it. And we made it like, as I say, we took something very simple and we transformed it in gold. When you see also in West Africa, we wear bazin. You know, these kind of things, shiny and all. Do you know what it was initially? Tablecloths. Tablecloths from Switzerland. What happened is that after World War II, you know, all the West African people that they went for war. There was some soldiers from Africa. So when the war was ended, they sent them back home, and they had like a gift pack, a goodie bag, like thank you for dying for us and everything. And in this goodie bag, there was like a tablecloth. A tablecloth. And these people came back, and what the hell? What are they going to do with this tablecloth? So they took it and they sewed, they embroidered it, and people say, "Oh, it's coming from Switzerland! Wow!" And people start, and then it became a luxurious.
Yeah, but it's the same. It's the same way we've got the Gama textiles with Shweshwe. So it's a very similar story, which is another completely different topic. So now I think we're going to go through. You want to say something?
No, thank you so much. I just want to, maybe as a point of advice to students here in the masterclass. One key thing that we are missing as enterprises is what is called a 60-40 rule, so that we have implemented at the incubator. So what we will do is that 40% you have to focus on operations. This will be you are now doing designs and all of that. But the major thing, the 60%, is what will take you in terms of sustainability, in terms of your business scaling. So you have to look into the administration part of a business. We cannot move as people that will say, no, it's my passion, this is what I do, this is what I love, if it is not bringing any income. So you get people ending up having mental problems because now they are not getting returns from what they are doing.
It's frustrating.
Yes. So what you need to do as a business, the first key is for you to get the right education in terms of business administration. This is on YouTube. You can go and Google, get business model canvas and check in terms of maybe lean canvases. And, you know, one of the key ingredients in all of this is, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Why are you in this? Are you in this because it is the love of fashion, or do you want to convert it into a business? So you enter in different roles, knowing where market access is. So the second one that I wanted to touch, it is based on ethical leadership in a business. How do we become ethical leaders inside of a business? Because you yourself have to have a benchmark of your products. You don't need to go down because the client is saying that, but this one, I can get it at Shein for this price. You need to stick there based on what the market is or what is trending during that time. So we are talking about the market bench. So the third one that I wanted to touch is financial institutions. The reason that in terms of funding is so scarce is because businesses, they don't know about CSDs to be on the database as suppliers. So to be trusted by financial institutions, because when you go as a brand to financial institutions, they are going to ask you your background portfolio.
Your business plan.
Yes. So what they are looking for is to see that this person does not have risk, that at a later stage they are not going to pay back the grant or the loan. So what we have done, we have plugged in SMEs into CEDA. So CEDA, what CEDA does, CEDA, they have this, what is called export readiness. So they will train, equip SMEs to become export ready. So they will look into mass production, so that after can you produce mass production? Yes, I can produce this certain number. Then they can now assist you in terms of export readiness, so you can export. So you have CIFA, NYDA, there's two of our SMEs, they've already been funded into that. So the main key is compliance. If SMEs can go back and become compliant.
Yeah, but you can't, that's the reason I was insisting that when you start your business, you have to register. And a lot of people are not aware that they can't get funding because they are not compliant with a lot of things that are required within those application forms. And also pertaining to the information that you're giving, as a content creator, it's going to be between me and you that we compress everything and we put it on the website, on the AFI website, so that everybody can have access to everyone else who's here, so we can carry on exchanging ideas and sharing.
And I mean, from my personal perspective as an entrepreneur in fashion industry, it's not easy, like all the compliances that you say, it's not easy because you are drawn, and we are a passionate person, we are the artistic side. So even me, I have a business background, I used to work in bank, but trust me, my accountability is a disaster. And I had to put everything in order when I was searching for those subsidies. So they're asking for 2 years, like usually you need 2 years of accountability. So what you can do even from now is like having a basic as accountability. Even if you can't be really strict about everything, just at least put the main thing, because what they want to see is like the progress from N to N plus 1, N plus 2. They want to see the progress and the possibility of going further. The other thing is like what I don't like, to be honest, I don't like the words mass production. I hate this word. I hate this.
But this is the reason everyone is trying to get rid of fast fashion, because that's how everyone is compressing and becoming smaller and smaller.
Totally, and because we are talking, the subject is circular fashion. The circular fashion doesn't go with mass production. And one of the aspects also of the young designer have a tendency to think is always going and producing a lot and going abroad. But the first step is like you have to already know your own market locally. You have to know it, know what's working. And sometimes someone want to invest, they will borrow money to grow, to reach a certain level of production and to export. But then the things doesn't follow. And then this is how some companies who were very promising just go bankrupt because they took money and they can't give it back. Sometimes for young designer, my best advice is to go slowly and learn from the mistake and really know your market, because you are not for everybody. Your brand, you can't please everyone. So you have to know the people. Me, there's some country where I won't go because I know that my style doesn't match the sense of things, or the maturity of the market is not.
It's not the same as your brand equity.
Definitely, so it's very important. So even me, like the way I developed my brand was through concept stores. The evolution of concept stores make that I send
pop-up stores and all that.
So I send my clothes, and then so even customer that I don't know discover when they come for other brand, they discover my brand. And why they discover it? Because I know my price range. I know that I'm competitive in terms of price because I decrease all my fixed costs. So I know that no matter what, for the same price as other fashion designer, African fashion designer, I have a equivalent or better quality product. So this is, you have to find how to make yourself different, right? So this is very important. And as circular fashion, also you have to make durable product that you know that you wear it today, but you can wear it in 10 years. This is how durable and circular fashion work, because like you can keep it longer, and you have to train your customer to buy less but better. You buy less, so this is where they
Quality
will be,
more than
yes,
quantity.
they will be ready to buy a bit more, expensive, but then they will wear it more often. And so I always offer to my customers some alteration at a very minor cost. So when even 2 years after they gain some weight, I can alter it, open it, change it. From a long dress, I will tell them, okay, they have an event, a wedding. They will do we will do a big dress. And then afterwards I say, okay, you come back, I will alter it for free. I will make it short so that you can wear it every day. So this is important. So you have to educate people in those, when we come to circular or sustainable fashion, I mean, this is how African designer can work on this circular economic model.
And just,
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chisanga. I am from Lusaka, Zambia. I run a social enterprise called Chilengedwe Zambia. We are focused on communicating sustainability, mindset change, and as well as uniting communities. So I'm here really in this room and privileged to be in this room because I am friends of Nguo, the brand, and of course, by extension, friends of the fashion industry. So I just want to speak
do you want to move forward a little bit? The lights are clearing in my eyes, so I can't really see.
You want me to come all the way to the front?
No. You can just sit there, sit on the sofa and relax and talk.
Oh, this must be because I'm from Lusaka. But anyway, I'm coming. So yes, as this conversation has been unfolding, a couple of things have been popping into my mind. And you're talking about circularity, you're talking about commercialization, you're talking about scalability. And these are very important. And you talk about getting funding and how you're going to enhance your business. And one of the things that I would like to share with the people that are in the room, because this is something that I've had to struggle with myself in my business and have to have the passion feed me until I can get the money onto the table. As you go out into the world to look for money, a couple of things that always come up, which are very key, are that how is this changing the livelihoods of the people that you're working with, in the communities that you're working in?
So true.
So as you put your bids out there, be considerate of that, because the person that's got money in their pocket and they're going to give it to you, they want to know the impact of the livelihoods of the people that you're working in. What is your impact on the youth? What is your impact on the women? How are you managing climate change in everything that you're doing? So when you talk about durability and you talk about circularity in fashion, you also have to be thinking about who are the people that weave the yarn that you use? Who are the people that are cultivating in the farms where the cotton gets grown and all those things? So your story, as you start as a designer, as a creative, should be around those things, that you should constantly be thinking about what story am I going to go and tell to the world. And I'm so impressed at the fact that you would drive for Africa, because us as Africans are the ones that are largely affected by climate change. COP28 is going to be taking place in a couple of weeks. And the conversation there last year, when we were there, we were fighting for loss and damage compensation. We were fighting for Africa to get that money. Everybody promises billions and billions of dollars to give to Africa, but it's so difficult to access that money. So the conversation should really be around that. As Africans, we must stand in the room and talk about sustainability, talk about adaptability, talk about, give the story around what our resilience story is, because that is the way that we're going to get our foot in the door and get that belongs to us. There's 5 billion trees pledged to be planted in Africa, you know. Who's it going to benefit? So we've got the carbon credits from the trees that we're planting. Who's that benefiting? All the agriculture that's taking place. Who's that We're compensating for the West that are causing all of this that is happening, the carbon emissions and the heat and the way the global warming has taken place. So let us fight. As Africans, the future is in Africa. Africa is the future.
But how do we fight? For me, fundamentally, what I agree with everything you're saying, but for me, I think the only thing I'm going to say, we've lost the essence of Ubuntu.
Yes.
And for me, how do we get rid of corruption? Because the money is there, but the money doesn't come through down to the ground. The money is there. My brother works for United Nations. The money is there, but there's so much corruption within all systems, within every single government within a continent, that the people on the ground are not getting the money. How are we fighting people to go back to Ubuntu first, so that people can access that money? Because people are accessing that money for their own pockets.
Exactly.
Correct. It's mindset change to you, dear Guru. It's mindset change. And those conversations of mindset change must begin to happen in this room.
But the thing is, like, it's very deep. Even the fundings that I was talking about, the funding I got.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, who set the rules? Who decide what make you, like, eligible to that?
So to get the funding.
And I was getting crazy. So I got the funds, but like you have to give you have to tell them what you want to buy and everything. And they say, okay, this we finance. But I have to give the money first. So I say, if I come to you, I don't have the money. So you want me to pay up front?
To give you money so that I can get money.
I give the proof that I paid everything in advance. The people have to finish the work, and then I will come to see them to give me the money back. I'm like, how do you want me to manage? I'm a micro enterprise. So you, from the beginning, you didn't understand the real struggle of our companies. And the second thing is, like, they say you can spend money on exporting, like I can travel everywhere I want. If I say I want to go to Atlanta to make a pop-up sale, no, even though I don't really go for a pop-up sale, they will finance me. But if I tell them, I need
the fabric.
I need the fabric, or I need a machine to allow me to have nice buttonhole. Oh no, this is not into the budget. The budget is focused on exporting. I say, yes, but exporting, I have to find
have a good quality product.
Quality requirement. I need this machine. No. We can finance you on the internet, the website. So I had, because the budget is an envelope, so I had like one people who gave me an invoice who was not too high. Do you know the person what told me? He said the invoice is too low.
Too low.
Yes, yeah, it's too low. I'm like, why? You want me to call him and say, please increase your thing, knowing that I have 25% to pay and I have to pay upfront? I say, come on. But the problem is, like, all those United Nations and World Bank and all,
UNESCO
they
and all
have
that.
yes. This is rules that are set from people in their office, and they don't realize our own reality. And at the end of the day, most of the entrepreneurs cannot fit those kind of thing. And there are some scams. There are some companies that are specialized in getting those funding and then going bankrupt, and they create another one. I know a lot of them that are specialized in that.
But it's the same thing that we spoke about, me and you. I don't want this to end here. This is the second time we're having this. And for me, I won't do it next year this time if it's going to be the same way. I want to see change from the beginning of the year. And I want to create content where everyone is within that content, where everyone can be writing how they feel in the struggles they're going through. For me, this has to be a movement moving forward. I am not going to be doing this dance again. If it is going to be the same, I will not be here next year at the same time. For me, I want this to move forward, and I want positivity, and I want contributions from everybody.
So I think it's coming, but why media would not relate our concerns and what we have said? Like, the thing is also, like, the voice is through also media who can bring things out about those real concerns, about the situation, the fashion industry, small companies, and then try to find leaders who can...
which is exactly what I said to her. We're going to sit down, we're going to write this, this is going to be on the website. It's something that we have to start punting and be positive about it and work hard at it and spread it and make sure that we are heard.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, so my name is Ntsakoma Shangani. I have a background in economics and I've been doing my honors in fashion this year. I'm still trying to find my fit in fashion, and I've been asking myself where economics and fashion meets. And I think it has something to do with the government. And you mentioned a lot of things about government intervention. So I've been sitting here asking myself that, what's the best way to get attention from the government, like the same way they pay attention to sports?
It's the same. This is the platform where everyone is engaging, and that's how we start. This is the beginning of a new journey of voices that are going to be heard. How we can write our grievances together, send them to government, and still fight and hope for the better.
Okay.
This is only the beginning step of moving forward.
Okay. Okay, so do we need any form of representation in government for the fashion?
Well, we do have a ministry. We do have the ministry of the Department of Arts and Culture. We've got we've got so many departments that, for me, essentially, it's not even about department. It's about being intentional. All of them wear clothes. All of them know designers. For me, every governmental department needs to be conscious, from trade and industry to arts and culture. They need to be very conscious of this movement and this force that's going forward.
But I think to have an honest and straightforward answer, because you want action, right? I think the right action for you as student right now will be to create a group of students with one of your tutor, who you will do a letter and all, and ask for a meeting with some of the people responsible for the cultural things. You just go and research, and there are some cultural things who are especially focused on how to export and the fashion industry. So when you will meet those people, raise up your concern and see because most of them have some programs, and know how you can fit to those programs. The thing is it will not come to you. So you have to dig, you have to search the information will not come to you. So there are a lot of programs, even international programs. You have to go, and you can create even an association into your school where people are gathering all the information regarding the subsidies from international communities and here locally, and help those people with there are some association, because I know in Senegal there is some small structure who are especially dedicated to fashion industry and small companies, to help them go through the process of finding those fundings.
And also, it's a pity that we now have a defunct South African Fashion Council. We need to go back and re-establish that, which is a body that is directly linked to the government, in questioning government about funding, about a lot of grievances from the clothing and textile market. So there are a lot of things that we are here to address and move forward with positivity on how do we change that.
Here behind, yes.
Hello, everyone. Felipe, I'm with you on not talking about this topic again. I was with you last year at the masterclass. One of the things that I've realized is that government is going to dangle the carrot until we cry no more. So I believe that in those ministries, in those boards, there need to be people in the industry. Because if there's no representation in the industry, there's nothing that is going to happen.
There's no voice.
Those people are making decisions for industries that don't have any idea of what happens. It's just like the media. The media will write up about you. Like this morning I was laughing. It was a write-up about me representing Botswana. I'm not representing Botswana. I'm representing myself because I'm here in my own capacity. I did not get any funding from the government. Last year I went to Cape Town Fashion Week. I was partly sponsored with peanuts from the Fashion Council of Botswana. But it came with so many tighting things, like I have to do something. But they said the money is there to support you. And I'm like, whenever you need my expertise, I am ready for you to come. Don't tie me to yourself. I came 20 years ago. I started on my own at my mother's backyard. I'm still doing it, and I'm not giving up. I keep falling and going down. I go to the bank. The bank gets my money every time. Money comes from AFI, money comes from my clients, but they cannot give me a loan. So for us to push forward, let's push for people in the industry to sit in boards, to be in the ministry, to be everywhere. Otherwise, we are still going to be crying 20 years to come. Africa, like everybody has said, Africa is the dream, is the gem. It's up to us to decide to say no more. We want what is best for ourselves. Thank you.
Exactly. All right.
And here we have our final question.
Hi again. I'm Sarah Fajani. I'm more here for, not really a question, but more for comments. Alia, thank you. You did make the point that, I want to make 2 points. For all the youngs here, in South Africa, you are lucky. I don't think it's the best situation of all the continent, but as a West African, just Alia, unfortunately, fashion and culture is not hyped in our region. It's getting there, thank God. Slowly moving in the right direction, but we don't have the same tools that in this country you have. You have some people here who have a creative incubation center who are giving you the tools. You have some, and the good thing about internet, you have some also, you have information about culture, about Africa, the whole continent. Because what I do tend to see is like, there's a lot of curiosity from Northern Africans and West Africa, at least that's my perspective, towards the whole continent when it comes to culture, to history, to fashion. I don't feel it's the same way. There's not as much curiosity because South Africa is a very rich country, but I feel like you guys should be even more curious. And not only in Nigeria, because you have someone from Niger, and myself from Mali, Algeria, you have Burkina Faso, and I'm seeing a few creatives who are actually taking that risk. They are curious about the rest of the continent, and you have content. The same way that everyone is curious about social media, and you have Instagram, you have people who are actually putting content on LinkedIn, on websites, and even on AFI, I'm sure there is content about the history of fabrics, history of fashion, the background. So you have this kind of information. Indeed, it is up to you, young people, to really be even more curious. It's good to know about the current trends, how it evolves, but it's also good to know your industry, your history, and it is available to you. It's just that for you to be more curious, and hopefully you are. I think I'm seeing those changes. And I also come from an African institution, and we are trying to, because now there's a proper interest in fashion because it's becoming an industry. It's not completely there, but it is getting there, and maybe not the way we see it, but we are trying to see the different programs, as we say, the different policies. So indeed, it's a collective effort. So it's good that you have Incubation Center where I'm telling you exactly how it is. Go to them.
Go to speak to her afterwards. She will give you info.
But indeed, because Incubation Center, like the one in Dakar, I heard like it happened maybe last year, and we didn't have that. And still in West Africa, we don't have. So you are actually a lot more luckier. Take advantage of that. You even have loans. As she was saying, a West African bank, even if it's a Pan-African bank, will not bank on you yet because there's no such thing as a fashion industry, and they don't see the power of exporting. It's only changing now and starting with Nigeria. Niger doesn't see this, Mali not yet, and hopefully we will because we are fighting for that. But in your cases, Botswana, Zambia, South Africa, you actually have a circular fashion, you have a local fashion industry, and you're able to export in other countries. If you want to have your own history, then yes, it's good to know about your local history, but know about the whole continent. Be curious, really. I would say that. I mean, I am lucky to be able to travel everywhere on the continent. I am actually lucky to be able to afford fashion from the whole continent. It wasn't the case all the time, but I am lucky now. So the same way for you guys. I mean, there are tools. We just need, as we say, we all have a part to play. AFI is one of the places, but there's many more. And if you can go to Nigeria, go. If you can go to Mali, go. If you can afford it, if you can try to speak to other people from the continent, if you can try to exchange. You have someone who came from Dakar, like 10, 15 hours. I left my West African country and I came and live here. So the whole continent is moving. We are expecting you guys to come more towards us, and we are hoping you will, so that you will see that there's tools here and there, and you have resilience. You have a few tools, and I think that's just a comment. Just keep going and be curious about the whole continent. It's not only your nearby Zambia. I'm sorry, no offense to Zambia. What I'm saying, like, I want to be able to see more of that. Really, it's a whole. The continent is your whole market. Maybe not now; it's feasible, but getting to know it better will help you in the future. I'm very sure about that. That was just a comment.
I totally agree with her. So the thing is, like, you have to be proactive. Even me, like all the place I'm selling right now, I had to search for the contact of those people, reach out to them like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I send them the samples. Okay, can you represent me? So usually what happens is like this: you send the product, and when they sell, they give you your money with the commission less. So for them, it's less risky. So you have to compromise, but you have to search. Things will not come to you. You have to search for those people. And yes, I'm here right now. For example, I can give you an example. I can give you contacts of some concept store where I'm exposing. You never know, and there's nothing like the thing. Also, I think I will finish on that. Is like really like also the spirit, and what is important for Africa is to help each other. It's like really to get together and sharing things. When we are all in our corner, fashion in Senegal, fashion in Dakar, fashion in Nigeria, and all, we won't come through. We have to go and get strong together and really show that we have our DNA, and we don't need other people, we don't need outsiders, because we are the fastest growing population in the world. Elsewhere, they are growing old and their market is not sufficient enough. Our own market is more than enough for the few coming years. If our customer, if the consumer in Africa understand that they have to consume African products to empower ourselves, to empower our country and our continent, we're going to win everything. So the mind shift is now, right now. We have to educate people. This is happening now. And you as student, you are very lucky to be able to start in this kind of atmosphere.
And for me, Shamyra, as a previous fast track winner, what is your last word?
Oh, that, you have to constantly accept that change is constant. You have to push yourself. Don't wait for the funding. Those things can happen and they should happen, but don't wait for it. Don't wait for the legislation. Self-audit yourself. Be ahead of the game. Know that you, and as Alia said, need to act as a collective to move and change the industry. Take from the West, steal from them. What are they doing well, and adapt it to Africa and make it even better. So yes, have the African mindset and take what's working well in the West and adapt it to here. And that is the way that we can steamroll and grow an industry where we get to determine what it is. Because yes, it is an incredibly exciting time to be in fashion. Fashion is and was very frivolous, but now we can have this lasting, long impact, leave that legacy. Because, you speak of circularity. What are we as the current designers and this generation going to leave behind? And that will be the starting point for future generations. And that's how I see that circle.
Thank you.
One final one, and it's directed to you, Philippe.
All right. Hi, my name is Harmony. We've heard a lot, and there's a lot that has been said. So my final question is kind of in two parts. The one part is, with everything that has been said, what would you like to see more of? Whether it's from designers, whether it's from the government, whether it's from incubators, what would you like to see more of? And then the last part is, we've given so many solutions to government, but we have to have a starting point. What would you say is like the starting point for that? Like the one thing for us to
For
start?
me, it's about being proactive. Being proactive about your own self, number one. Being proactive about what you create and how you give out. Being proactive about having a voice and speaking your mind and challenging the status quo. Being proactive about collaborations. All I've put out there is that everyone here is a creative. If you need something from anyone, don't be scared to ask. For me, the key word and the hashtag, be proactive.
I think for me, it's like, upload, yes. For me, I think the starting point, because I like practical things. I've done so many masterclass forum where people talk, you get out of it, you are frustrated because there was nothing conclusive. So for me, as student or as creative, for example, for subsidies and everything, as I said already, like get some accountability, like some accounts to show people your evolution, have a clear vision of where you want to go. Like first, like short terms, I want to be represented here in this city, in this country, and in 2-3 years, hopefully it will be this way, and this is how I want to implement, this is the money I need for this or that. Me, for example, for this collection, I had like really to try this. It was the first time I was borrowing money from bank, and my God, it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare, seriously. Bank institution, this is a disaster. I used to work in bank in France, and I never knew it was that hard to get money, like to borrow money, and at crazy interest rate, but it's crazy. So to get money faster, because I had to buy things, I had to sell my gold. I don't know, this is taboo, but you have to understand, for us, especially West African women, from when we are young, from the birth, people give us gold, like gold earring, anniversaries, wedding, everything. They give us gold because no matter what, when you have trouble, when you have issues, this is the things that you can sell the fastest way. So can you imagine, I sold quite a few pieces of my gold to be able to buy those fabric and to, like what you've seen on the runway, it's my gold. Literally, it's my gold on the runway, because for me, it's my future also. So there's sacrifices. You have to be proactive. Things won't come the same way, and because it's passion, and no matter what, don't get regret, because at least you have tried. Me, to finish, I would say I'd rather have regret from action than regret of inaction.
And with that, thank you so much, Philippe, for directing such an insightful conversation, and also for putting an onus on us to make sure that we set up the right bodies to make sure that all of us are here to build. They put on a clearing call last year. They were part of the panel last year. And this year we kind of like did something similar, but now it's time for action.
Yep.
So I hope we're all gonna come together and find the solutions. We're gonna speak, we're gonna stop gatekeeping, we're gonna open doors for each other, we're gonna share information readily because we want to build a successful fashion industry that is thriving, that doesn't need any assistance from the West. Thank you so much for being such an attentive audience. Thank you so much for asking questions. Thank you for engaging. I just want to thank Felipe, I want to thank Alia, I want to thank Shamyra and also Khensani. She had to go off because she was late for her flight. Thank you so much, designers Batini. I know I spoke to you. I said, you need to come because she told me about a story about her collection on Monday. And I said, I want you to come to the masterclass. I want you to come share that story. Sinero, thank you so much. Dumi, everybody, you were all really insightful. And also, I just want to thank Huawei Watch GT4 for making it possible for us to gather in this way. And it's great to see brands like Huawei kind of like understanding and seeing the need for all these discussions to happen. Because if we have more brands realizing the power that African fashion has, things will be so much better for us. With that, everybody, there's great food and beverages set aside, but also please network, engage, take pictures, ask questions. They're still here. Also, go to the store upstairs and see Alia's beautiful collection that literally cost her gold. But Tini's collection, yes. But Tini's collection is also upstairs, as is Ngo's, as is Kayla Meal. Thank you so much, everybody, for a beautiful afternoon. Have a great afternoon further.